Provocative title, you say? Why, yes, that is exactly what I was going for. As slightly hyperbolic though it may be, there is a valuable argument and point to be made here, as quite a bit of mainstream media alleges that Claudine Gay being dethroned from the position of president at Harvard is an example of right-wing cancel culture. And yes it is. The progressives have taught us very well. And now, it is time for you to be afraid. Because right-wing cancel culture is a good thing. It is, as the progressives might call it, what was that endearing term again? Yes, consequence culture. But beyond the mocking schadenfreude, there is a point here to be made. See, back in the day, I've been around long enough to remember this, one of the leading arguments from, well, my side of the internet was, do not use these destructive tactics. Do not use these inherently bad tactics, regardless of the target, because if you do, there will come a day when they are used against you. And the left laughed. No, this will never happen. We are correct. We are on the right side of history. People will understand our terror tactics. Our French Revolution will be lauded by the masses, and there is no point at which we ourselves will find our necks in little, wooden blocks staring down into a paper basket. Well, turns out that the day of the basket has indeed arrived, and the cancellation of Claudine Gay is particularly important because the modern-day progressive movement emerged largely from academia, and the fact that this has now reached so deep back into academia as to dethrone a sitting president of Harvard is extraordinarily indicative of just how weak the progressive position has become. As Claudine Gay, make no mistake, was hired primarily due to her shade, rather than her numerous academic achievements. Well, that and her blatant refusal to say that, yes, you should indeed not allow people to call for the genocide of Jews on Harvard campuses. Oh, the left is taking up the position of free speech absolutism now, is it? Oh, do not even try that. Oh, God, help me. Oh, heavens help me indeed. Whew. And I do love, by the way, that we are now calling this the culture war. Mainstream and progressivist media have come to calling it the culture war now. Why? Because back in the day, it wasn't a culture war. It was, as mentioned, consequence culture. It was merely an execution. But now that the opposition have taken to firing back, well, now it's a conflict. How dare they? How dare they indeed. As I want to read out a couple of paragraphs of this article in particular here. The larger lessons of Gay's departure, though, should give pause to anyone who still harbors fond reveries that intellectual inquiry should not follow basic dictates of party agitprop. See, it's always been that. Or at the very least, in modern history it has. Again, the left wing of the day came from academia. Your party agitprop was the very core fundamental foundation of modern-day academia. You're only annoyed now because it's the other side's agitprop that is reaching back into academia and saying, no, stop indoctrinating kids, you goddamn crazy communist bastards. For all the right-wing agita over scholarly standards and the neglected mandate of viewpoint diversity, the Crusade Against Gay, like the one preceding it at Pennon, was a raw ideological putsch. Well, in part, yes. Now, a large part as well was the fact that Gay was a particularly easy target, as again, her intellectual and academic background was lacking at best, certainly for somebody being in the position of president of Harvard. Her inability to answer even the most simplistic of moral questions also further hampered her. Manhattan Institute fellow Christopher Rufo, who first publicized the gay plagiarism charges, laid out the whole MO from the upset in 2 weeks ago. We launched the Claudine Gay plagiarism story from the right. The next step is to smuggle it into media apparatus of the left, legitimizing the narrative to center-left actors who have the power to topple her, then squeeze. Correct. And the beauty of this is, I'll show you back to the previous point. Do not use these weapons, for they will be turned upon you. How did they do this? They, in their own words apparently, smuggled it into the media apparatus of the left. You know, the whole enormous grinding machine you've constructed to destroy people, to crush them, to remove them from the internet, to remove them from modern day living, to get them removed from social media platforms, to get them removed from virtually every way of reaching out to an audience, to get them removed from their jobs. That apparatus, that is the machine we were referring to. That was the weapon you should not unsheathe. And now your opposition is looking at it and thinking, man, that's awfully effective, isn't it? What if we could use that? Wait, we can? Well, I'm going to take this as face value here. They've said this and they did this, and I'll applaud it as well. The urgency of this mandate was clear in the right's ready abandonment of his earlier postures of free speech absolutism. Well, here's the thing. Free speech absolutism, if we take it to its logical conclusion, is obviously incorrect, since we need to have stuff like libel laws. But what we're saying with free speech absolutism in large is that you should be allowed to say anything you want to say so long as it isn't illegal. And there should be very, 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 very few laws against what it is legal to say. Agitation for outright violence, stuff like that. Everything else should be largely fine. And again, free speech absolutism. That's the thing. These aren't the right wing's standards. You are not being cancelled by the right wing's standards. You are being cancelled by the left wing's standards. This is your apparatus. This is your rule set. This is your playground that is being used against you. You cannot look to your opposition and go, oh, hold on there, what about your principles, when they're using your bat to beat you over the head with. They are making a point. That is literally what this is. Now, there is absolutely the potential for right-wing cancel culture to go too far and become simply just another form of mainstream cancel culture. It is entirely possible. The right is no more immune to this than the left inherently, but right now, this is cancel culture of the left being wielded by the right, and you have no room whatsoever to complain about it. Recursive war on campus wokeness. Suddenly, the timorous replies that the university's head tendered and Stefanik's badgering were ticketed to meet with real-world consequences, just as the left partisans in the culture war had long said they should. Exactly yet again. You have championed a set of standards. You have argued for the creation of a rule set that will condemn people for their positions, or even for their refusal to take a position. Like, a wonderful recent example. Oh, there's two. Hell, let's take Hogwarts Legacy, right? So, J.K. Rowling's position is that women means adult human female. Simple as. For that, she has become the Satan of the left, and Hogwarts Legacy became one of the greatest beacons of right-wingism ever. Because with the release of Hogwarts Legacy, it shone an enormous light upon the most screechingly absurdist behavior of the modern-day progressivist movement we have ever seen. It brought it to the fore in one of the largest modern-day franchises that a lot of younger people were into, and it illuminated the madness to them. Hogwarts Legacy has unironically done more for the conservative culture war than most of YouTube combined. Even if the one would not exist without the other, of course. Or even more recently, literally today, I think. So Mickey Mouse, Steamboat Willie, became public property, right? And people immediately started doing shit on it. One of them was a horror movie called, what was it? Something 88. I'll probably try to bring it up on screen here. Where they wanted to have Mickey Mouse Infestation, that was it. And it was set in the year 1988, thus the name. However, the progressives looked at two letters, 8 and 8, and thought to themselves, Nazis. Oh yes. I'm sure that was the intent. And they screeched extraordinarily loudly, up until the point where the edgy boys making the Mickey Mouse horror thing, because like, oh, this is really something, man, we're sticking it to those corporate bastards by doing this. What? You're threatening to cancel us? Okay. We'll immediately submit to the modern day fascists to berate the fascists of 60 years ago. Stunning and brave. This is the left-wing partisan view that is now being used fully against the left. This is why right-wing cancel culture, for the moment at least, is good. Because this is, and I've argued this for years now, the only way the progressives will ever learn their lesson, as they have demonstrated again and again, is if their faces are held to the fire for an extended period of time. So long as there was no consequences for their actions, so long as unveiling the arsenal and firing it at their foe did not come back at them, they mercilessly continued. When this was merely a conflict of one-sided executions, there was no brakes to the cancel culture train. You could be cancelled for the clothing you wore, never mind the shit you actually said. When they were unopposed, they committed the worst forms of authoritarian overreach you can imagine. Only by opposing them and hitting them repeatedly and violently over the head with the tools of their own making will we have any point whatsoever of having them look at this weapon and go, wow, that does hurt. I don't want that to be used against me, because pure unadulterated selfishness seems to be the only key, core, unifying feature of progressivism. And thus, right-wing cancel culture, good. Until next time, I've been Arch, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon. Have a good day.